What is up, guys? It's me, the ALEXX Prince, and so we got some news on Twitter. It was weird because it was kind of shocking to see everybody talking about this, but the debate of Eddie Guerrero being a B plus player. Somebody on Twitter said that Eddie is a B plus player, that he was only relevant because he died, and all of these things, yada yada yada. And it was very upsetting to see those comments, but I have to kind of go and throw my opinion now. With that said, I think that Eddie Guerrero is an A plus player. I'll explain why. He is literally the guy that you want right now. Honestly, he knows how to sell. He knows how to tell people how to be better. He is a locker room leader. We rarely get those nowadays. Like, the closest thing to a locker room leader right now is Roman Reigns. That is it. I can't think of any other locker room role models like that could fit that spot. Not even Drew McIntyre. I'm sorry. I don't see Drew McIntyre as a locker room leader. But at the time, Eddie Guerrero was a locker room leader, and that's kind of what you need in the in there. First of all, you got to prove that you are a talented wrestler. You got charisma. You could get the crowd rolling. Eddie did all of those things, and at the time, Eddie was a top merch seller. He was one of the biggest names. Everybody knew who Eddie Guerrero was. Now, I'm a little biased. I'm Latino. I'm from California. There's murals, plenty of murals of Eddie Guerrero in California, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Jose. Like, there are Eddie Guerrero murals everywhere. So there is a lot of love in the community when it comes to Eddie Guerrero. Latino Heat is the top. But I will say this. The draft in 2002, when WCW was bought out, they had a big fat roster. Some guys went to Raw, some guys went to SmackDown. And Eddie Guerrero was originally on Raw, but eventually he ended up moving to SmackDown. And then thus the SmackDown 6 were born. Edge, Angle, Benoit, Mysterio, and both of the Guerreros. Eddie was the most charismatic out of all of them at the time, outside of Kurt Angle, of course. But we said eventually Eddie's gonna go on his singles run, and he is going to be a top player. Everybody said Eddie was a top main event player. Everybody knew he was a top main event player. WCW didn't see it, but the WWE did see it. Vince saw something in Eddie. Actually, all of the McMahon saw something in Eddie, and they knew they were going to eventually push him. They were just figuring out how they were going to get there. And thankfully, they found it when he beat Brock Lesnar. That was a big markout moment. You don't get crowd reactions like that. And it's upsetting because how often do you cheer a babyface that you want to see on top, and how often do you boo a heel that you want to see get booed and hated? Like, yeah, it's hard to find those guys, and Eddie knew how to do that. And thankfully, he was around when we had real crowds, not these like smart crowds that focus too much on in-ring ability and like zero charisma. Like, those, he came at the right place at the right time. So thankfully that is the case with Eddie Guerrero. It was a little bit weird, and I still have issues with this, where someone could be in the top main event match of one WrestleMania, and then they're lower down the card or not at the same level as they were the following year. Because WrestleMania 20, Eddie Guerrero was defending the WWE Championship with Kurt Angle. And then the following year, he's in a match against Rey Mysterio in a tag champ versus tag champ. Now, I don't have a problem with the match. If anything, I think it's a very underrated match, one of the best openers in WrestleMania history. Go watch the match, believe me. And honestly, it was the perfect match because it was in Los Angeles. Latinx is just at an all-time high in in there. And that Latino Heat Scarface T-shirt of Eddie Guerrero, that was one of the best T-shirts. Like I own, well, not I don't own the Eddie Guerrero one, but I own versions of those shirts. Star Wars, Batman, all kinds of shirts, and maybe you've seen me wear some on videos from time to time. But unfortunately, I don't got Eddie merch. That's the sad truth. But I do respect the man, and I do see that this guy could have been at the top. Now, had the draft never happened, I think it would have taken him a lot longer for him to get there, but it would have happened. That is for sure. Maybe it would have taken a little bit too long, but let's say the draft never happened. Let's say um we never had two brands ever in the history of this business. We never had a Raw roster and we never had a SmackDown roster. And all of the wrestlers were in one place at the time. Eddie was a very talented, gifted wrestler who would have eventually evolved. The SmackDown 6, honestly, the only three people I would have seen at the top, obviously Kurt Angle, Edge, and Eddie. Those are the three as actually Edge is a bit of a question mark. I think they wanted to make him a world champion down the road. They just weren't sure how. Benoit was a hit or miss, and I'm not just saying this because of what he did. I do sometimes get biasism in the way, but Benoit he definitely had the look of a world champion, and they wanted to push him to the world title, but he wasn't as charismatic or as fun as the rest of these guys. Rey Mysterio, I'm gonna be honest, they would have seen him as just a mid card talent or cruiserweight champion at best. And deep down, Chavo Guerrero, who is a good wrestler, he wasn't as a big of a hit as those guys. And this is coming to the truth. I've met Chavo Guerrero in the past, so this is not me being like super biased. Like this is the honest truth. But Eddie, man, back to Eddie. I think if the draft never happened and if Eddie never died, he would have been at the top still. It would have taken him a lot longer to get there, but he would have been at the top. It probably would have taken 2008, 2009 till they realized that they had a big main event star. Due to the draft, we saw him evolve and become a main event a lot sooner than we hoped. And thankfully we did. We got to see him as WWE champion. And we almost saw Shawn Michaels and Eddie Guerrero. We almost saw Eddie Guerrero main event a WrestleMania against John Cena. That probably would have happened. And if he was still around, more than likely he would have had Dominic Mysterio's debut match, not Seth Rollins. So Eddie had a lot to bring. He knows how to make stars. He knows how to uh, give the crowd what they want. He knows how to teach everybody who's still learning. I think I've heard from Zach Gowen. I think that was his name, the guy with the one leg. Like he got a lot of inspirations from Eddie before he became the like a jerk. I've heard he was like very terrible, but that's besides the point. But Eddie was a guy that will keep everybody rolling, and he didn't complain with the WWE except for when he had drug problems. Luckily, he got saved. Unfortunately, what happened. And Eddie's just the guy that you would want as your top player. I'm gonna be honest. Guys like Brian Danielson, Johnny Gargano, uh, yeah, guys like Johnny Gargano, Daniel Bryan, even uh, trying to think of some other guys, Finn Balor. Those guys ain't got shit on Eddie Guerrero. Eddie would have fucking went circles around those guys. He would have helped them get better. Dude, imagine Finn and Eddie like that. If Finn and Eddie ever happened today, Finn would have been a megastar because Eddie knows how to create stars. He knows how to tell the stories. So Eddie is a perfect guy. He is an A+ player. It's about what you can bring. It's about what you have to accomplish, and it's all about who are the biggest draws. Like, keep in mind, Chris Jericho is an A+ player, and he was there during the Attitude Era, and he always had a back and forth run. He was always the world champion, then he was the IC champion, then he was in the tag team division. But people say that Chris Jericho is an A+ player, and he has a similar route to Eddie. So this idea that Eddie Guerrero is a B+ player, you're just lying. You just want attention. You're just BSing yourself. Eddie is a top player. He is gonna go down as one of the greats, and it's awesome that Eddie Guerrero is still relevant to this day. So yeah, Eddie Guerrero, A+ player.